It had only been a few days since Nora, Luke, and Ollie made the startling discovery that their family vehicle was anything but ordinary. And by this time, it was no secret that their van had special abilities and could take them places no other vehicle on Earth could go. And it wouldn't be long until Nora, Luke, and Ollie learned that this van wasn't from Earth at all. Nora and Luke woke up on a Saturday morning and rolled out of bed late because it was Saturday. They didn't have school. And they were sure glad because they wanted to play with their van. Now that they knew it was special and could do such incredible things, they wanted to see what else it could do. Nora, Luke, and Ollie jumped into the two front seats, and after sitting there for a few seconds, Nora said, "So, what do you want to do?" And it was as if the van heard what she said, because right after she said it, the van turned on and then it revved its engine. Their van clearly knew that they were sitting in its seats, and it almost seemed like the van was asking if it could take them for a ride. So they closed the doors, and just like that, the computer screen in the front turned on, and it just showed them one big button. The button had a picture of what looked like some other planet. It was the same planet Nora had seen on the screen earlier that week when they were flying high up in the sky as they were trying to escape from the police. There wasn't anything else to push, so Nora reached out and just lightly tapped on the screen. And then they could feel the van switch into reverse as it started backing out of the garage. And as soon as it rolled out, instead of backing all the way out of the driveway and into the street, they felt a loud burst as the van's rocket boosters underneath the van blasted off and started raising it off the ground. They were hovering in the air now, and they could tell they were rising higher off the ground with each passing second. And it wasn't long before they were floating over the house and then floating over the trees. Luke looked out the window and could see their parents run outside as they looked up at them with panicked looks on their faces, pointing and screaming. But there was nothing that their parents or the kids could do. This van was taking them somewhere, and no one had the power to stop it. After floating higher into the air, the kids could see their whole town below now. Something started to change as the van shifted its thrusters, and all of a sudden, they heard a familiar, loud blast as the van jolted forward, flying high into the sky, faster than a fighter jet. As the van continued flying higher and higher, they started passing other airplanes in the sky, and they kept flying higher and higher above the clouds until they were so high, the sky started to turn darker as they saw stars above them. And before they knew it, the van had taken them all the way into outer space. This was way higher than they had ever been before. They could even feel themselves starting to float as they left the Earth's gravity. And then suddenly, a message flashed across the computer screen in the front. It said,
"Hold on tight in 3, 2, 1, 0.
The van changed gears again, and they started flying very quickly away from the Earth. And they could hear a strange sound as all the stars in the sky seemed to melt together as they started moving forward at warp speed. That's right, they flew out of their solar system and then out of their galaxy into deep space where no human had ever gone before. This was unbelievable. And after about a minute of flying at speeds that seemed to bend the universe and time altogether, the van slowly started to slow way down until it seemed to stop right in front of another planet that looked just like the one on the button Nora had pushed. It even looked a little bit like Earth. But as they were about to discover, this place was very, very different from planet Earth. As the van flew into the new planet's atmosphere, they flew over a massive ocean until it started approaching a body of land that looked like it held a giant city. And in the middle of the city was a great big castle. And the van slowly flew toward the castle and descended down. And after slowly going down and down and down, it finally landed right on the ground in front of that castle. And when the kids looked out the window, for some reason, all they could see were animals everywhere. And they looked just like many of the animals they knew from their own world. Cows and squirrels, kangaroos, beavers, even elephants and tigers. But they were all walking up and down the streets in a way that looked strangely human. And perhaps the strangest thing was, they didn't see a single person anywhere. Just cats and dogs and rabbits and turkeys, you name it. Every type of animal was there, but not any people. And then they saw a giant gorilla approaching the van as it reached out to open the door. And then the gorilla started talking. That's right, he said,
"Welcome to Crediton. How did you two get here?"
But when the gorilla saw Ollie, he said,
"Oh my! Well, welcome, Your Highness. What brings you to our palace? We are so honored to have you here. Guards, bring out the red carpet. We have a very special guest here with us today."
Nora and Luke were shocked enough to see a talking gorilla, but they were even more shocked that the gorilla seemed to know who Ollie was and was treating him like he was a person or something. As if this all wasn't enough to process, they suddenly heard a voice come from Ollie's direction.
Why, thank you, kind sir. The children and I have had quite an eventful trip. We are ever so grateful to have arrived here safely.
What? The kid said. Ollie? When did you learn how to talk? Do you know where we are? And Ollie kept talking and he explained the whole thing.
Ah, yes. Well, you see, brother and sister, we've landed on the planet Savannah. And this world is ruled by animals. And any animal who lives here can talk, much like how you humans talk back on Earth. You see, on this planet, animals run things. And humans are the ones kept as pets. And in zoos and in cages. It's much like where we come from, but backwards.
The kids were trying to figure out how to make sense of all this when the gorilla returned and he said,
"Your Highness, please follow me. Would you like us to bring your two humans to the kennel for you?"
Why, thank you, kind sir, but that won't be necessary. The children can come with me.
So Ollie leapt out of the van and the three of them followed the gorilla into the castle and up a huge flight of stairs as everyone they passed would stop what they were doing to stare at them as they walked by. After all, it wasn't often that they saw aliens from another planet. And as they reached the top of the stairs, they entered a vast chamber with two thrones at the end, where they saw two dogs dressed up as a king and a queen. And they looked curiously similar to Ollie.
"Welcome to our palace, good friend. Cedric here tells me that you've traveled here from another world. Is that so?"
And then Ollie said,
It is quite true, your majesties. Me and my two human counterparts are from planet Earth of the Milky Way galaxy. We came here rather by accident in our rocket van. It seems to be capable of new things every day.
"Well, you are all quite welcome to stay here as long as you'd like, and your two humans will be well looked after by our animal caretakers."
Oh, well, I do appreciate the kind gesture. That won't be necessary. You see, these children accompany me wherever I go, Your Highness.
And suddenly they heard shouting from off in the distance as a giant rhinoceros came crashing through the hallway and into the king and queen's chamber.
"Your Majesty, our intelligence has just found that these three have come from a planet where they treat our kind like animals. And those two humans and their kind rule over everything where they come from. Can you even imagine?"
What? The king said.
"Tell me this isn't true."
It's true, Ollie, Nora, and Luke said together.
Did you just hear that, Elmira? Those two humans can speak. What is this wicked sorcery? Gods, seize them!
And then two other giant gorillas approached from behind as two more of them blocked the staircase so they couldn't leave. Nora, Luke, and Ollie knew they had to get out of there fast, but there was nowhere to go. And then, out of nowhere, they heard a loud crash as the van broke through the walls of the palace and came to a screeching stop right in front of them. It opened its side door and the three of them jumped in the van. And as the giant gorilla guards continued running towards them, the van quickly closed its doors and the kids got into their seats and fastened their seatbelts. And the van started speeding away and then it drove right off the edge of the palace balcony. And the gorillas threw their spears at the van, but the van was way too fast. Those spears didn't even come close to hitting them. Nora and Luke were still in a panic as the van quickly flew away and back up into the sky and into outer space. And as they left the strange planet, Luke said, "Ollie? I had no idea you could speak. That was incredible." And Nora said, "Yeah, Ollie, there's so much we need to talk about." But as they looked back at Ollie, all he could do was just bark back at them. "Wow, I guess he's only able to speak when he's on this planet," Nora said. And then Luke and Nora and Ollie fell fast asleep in the van as it carried the three of them all the way through hyperspace at warp speed back to planet Earth. And when they all woke up, they found themselves sitting in their garage with their parents standing at the door. And as they opened up the van, their parents said, "Care to explain what that was all about, kids? Why you flew up into the sky and disappeared and then drove back up into the driveway and into the garage within about 10 seconds? And Luke said, 10 seconds? What do you mean? We just flew to a whole nother planet and met a bunch of cats and dogs and animals that could talk and we got chased by gorillas. Oh, that's right. They forgot that the van had a funny way of freezing time as they went on their journey. And so Luke said, yeah, about that. So every time we get in the van, we start going and then time sort of stops. And then their mom said, "You know what? Don't even worry about it. We know this van is magical and we know the van is powerful enough to protect you wherever it takes you. So whatever happened, you can wait until tomorrow to explain it to us. But right now, you kids need to get to bed." And as Nora and Luke laid in bed that night, their minds were reeling with all they had experienced that day. Visiting a planet where animals ruled and could speak, discovering that Ollie could talk too, and then narrowly escaping from the gorilla guards, it was almost too much to believe. And then Luke turned to Nora and whispered, "Nora, do you think we'll ever go back there again, or even visit other planets?" And Nora considered it. "I don't know. Part of me wants to explore and see what else is out there, but another part of me thinks maybe we should be careful. We don't really understand how the van even works, or where it might bring us." "That's true," Luke nodded. "But no matter what, we'll stick together and look out for each other, right? You, me, and Ollie?" "Definitely." Nora smiled at her brother. "And Mom and Dad, too. I'm glad they're so understanding, even if they don't know the whole story yet." And then they were quiet for a moment, lost in their own thoughts. And then Nora spoke up and said, "I wonder why the van brought us to that specific planet. Do you think it was random? Or was there a reason it brought us there?" "I'm not sure," said Luke, "but I bet there's still a lot about the van we don't know. Seems like it has a mind of its own sometimes, doesn't it? Like how it saved us at just the right moment." And Nora said, "Maybe it's our destiny to figure out the van's secrets and have more adventures. But for now, I think we should just get some sleep and think more about everything that happened. We can talk more in the morning." Luke agreed, and they said their goodnights as they drifted off to sleep. And both siblings knew that their lives had changed forever. The universe was so much bigger than they had ever imagined. And while the future wasn't quite certain, they both took comfort in knowing they had each other They had their incredible parents and their loyal dog, Ollie, and a very special van to face whatever lay ahead. No matter what far-off places it might take them to next, one thing was clear. They were in for the ride of their lives, and they couldn't wait to see where the van would fly them to next. Do you ever find yourself wondering when the next episode is going to come out for the Storyland podcast? I know they don't come out as much as we all want them to, but if you want to be the first to know about when the next story is going to drop, all you got to do is follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or just go to storyland.show, and you'll find links to all the different places online where you can listen and watch, and even leave a comment and make suggestions about other story ideas that you might have. Just go to storyland.show, or again, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Just search for Storyland, all one word, podcast. Storyland Podcast, and you should be able to find us there. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.